So this mission takes place about 2/3 of the way through our game, you see. This is our hero, Sean Devlin. He's hanging basically on the outskirts of Paris right here. And in this mission, Sean is going to go work with the British SOE. Being Irish, he's kind of reluctant to work with the British SOE, but his old friend Skylar from his racing days has kind of baited him to helping him out. And if he helps them complete what their task that they want, what they'll do is point him towards Dirker, the guy that killed his best friend. So in this mission, it's actually one of the fantasies we had when we started working on the game. Every picture we saw of the French resistance, they were always blowing up trains. We're like, that's cool, we want to blow up trains, that's awesome. But we also wanted that classic movie moment of being on a train and actually, throwing people off, having fist fights, having gunfights on top of the train. So we made this big giant mission where we get to do all of that in one space. So in this mission, the SOE wants to get a Nazi scientist who's defecting off of this train, and Klaus Kessler actually. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go, but they also want to fake his death. So what we're going to do is we're going to go get on this train, we're going to go set up explosives on this train bridge, and then from there we're going to go get on the train, jam the throttle on the train, and pull the scientist off of the train. So our missions aren't like your typical sandbox game missions, even though we're in a sandbox. It's very big, like epic, level-based kind of design philosophies that go into our missions. So we're going to leave Paris here. We're going to go out into the countryside. Our game is big. It's like 5.5 by 5.5 kilometers. It goes from Paris all the way to the coast of France and Le Havre, all the way into Germany. Big countryside in between, big giant Nazi-occupied chateaus literally layering the entire world. Let's drive in first person. It looks a little bit cooler. So this is Skylar's race car. It was important for us to have a lot of racing cars in the game because we have a race car driver that becomes a Saboteur. This car we designed for Skylar. It's a bunch of classic design elements, but also a little bit of modern touches actually put into the car as well. So it's a little personalized for Skylar. So you'll notice the countryside is color. It's a lot less occupied than Paris is, but as I move out through here, you'll see, oh, damaged Skylar's car. We're going to head out towards this big giant train bridge that's heavily occupied, and you'll see the black and white will come back into the world. So what Skylar's having me do is I'm going to go set up a bunch of explosives on the bridge before we go actually get on the train. So you'll see what's going to happen here is Skylar's giving me some explosives, and I'm heading towards the train bridge. And you'll see little trains going by. And it's a heavily occupied area, so we go back to the black and white look. And when you finish the mission, you'll actually inspire this area. So like I was talking about this idea of this quiet in, loud out mentality that we have with our missions. It's not about just shooting everybody in the face, but that is a viable option. So what we can do here is I can sneak a little bit. We'll hide out here. I'll take out this enemy patrol. I'll get up behind him. If I was seen in here in my civilian uniform outfit, I would be shot on sight. So it's to my advantage to take this uniform. It's not a get out of jail free card. I still have to play by the rules of being a Nazi. I can't go shooting everybody. I can't go climbing all over the world. So the idea is, if somebody sees me, what will happen is my meter will start filling up. And eventually they'll blow a whistle and raise the alarms. But in disguise, there's this idea of what we call a perception range. If I'm standing still, I'm not bringing much attention. If I start running, I bring more attention to myself. If I climb, it gets even bigger than that. So you still have to be careful when you're in disguise. So we're going to go set some explosives on these struts here. There's a lot of different ways you can do this. The player can tackle this at any angle they want. We use the lighting in the black and white, the red, to really pop them out of the environment, to kind of just make note and make them stick out of it for the player and pull their eye towards them. Or for things like crates of contraband, we'll have the little symbols in blue to pull the player's attention to them. We use the color as a tool inside of the black and white. So we have this whole world where you can literally climb anything that it looks like it can be climbed. So Sean can climb across this bridge here and plant explosives. And it's a part of the tools for the game. The player can use it however they want it. They can find a different way into a base, use it as a way to escape. It's literally just another tool for the player. Climb across this bridge here. So what we're doing is we're planting 4 bombs on the struts. Oops, somebody spotted me. Oops. So somebody saw me there. So what's going to happen is they've blown the whistle. I've blown my cover. Now I have to just adapt to the situation. It's not like, I hesitate to use the term stealth, because stealth has the connotation of the moment you get caught, your mission's over and you're failing. So for us, it's about sneaking in and using it as a tool. I could have started shooting earlier if I wanted to. It's really about how you want to play. Oh. That guy is not letting me up. Cover system in the game, it's purely dynamic. You just actually walk up to cover and Sean takes it. It's about making that Sean always look like a cool action hero. I'll shoot that guy in the knees. This guy's a heavy soldier, takes a little more bullets. So it's very fluid though, because with our character that can run and jump and climb, we put a lot of care into making sure it would be very fluid inside of the environment. There's a lot of guys here. All right, so let me get up on this, plant my last bomb on this strut. So now I have one more I have to plant on the track. So what will happen is this train that the scientist is on, when that train hits this tracks, it'll hit that final charge and detonate that charge, set off all the secondary charges, and bury the train in the ravine. Another thing we like to talk about is we are this fantasy of the war. So you'll see things like Zeppelins flying around in our world. They were decommissioned after the Hindenburg for very, very good reason, but they're a great piece of fantasy and iconography in the world. And we actually use them as a fun piece of gameplay. So when you push the alarms up to a certain point in the game, they'll chase you around on the rooftops and try to take you out. All right, so right now I've been mainly using the MP40. It's pretty much or MP44. It's pretty much a classic German weapon. There's a lot of different weapons in the game. Oh, plant my charge here. There's a lot of different types of weapons. There's machine guns, pistols, rifles, shotguns, sniper rifles, flamethrowers, rocket launchers, a lot of different tools for the player to use in the game. And there's also fictional weapons. We have these guys we call terror squads, which are these big, heavily armored Nazis, and they have their own fictional weapons that we made up. We're not tied to just German weapons even in the game. We have a black market, so we can pull American and British weapons in the game as well. So we're going to get away from the bridge. I've got all the charges planted. There's a lot of different ways to cool down the alarms in the world. There's the traditional like escape the bubble, as we call it in the game. There's also that green dot is a hiding spot in the world. We have a lot of those layered in the world. In Paris, where it's heavily occupied, it's really hard to get away from, like get out of the bubble. So we have these hiding spots, and there's pissoirs, which are like urinals you can dash in and Nazis will go running by. There's girls you can grab and kiss. And there's also like what we call fight back zones, which are when you inspire the areas and you bring color, the resistance will bunker down in areas and you can pull Nazis up to those spots and the resistance will fight alongside of you and push back the alarms. So, like I said, our missions aren't these traditional sandbox missions of just very simple objectives. It's a lot of big objectives pulled together. A lot of storytelling goes into those. So there's a little bit of storytelling that'll come out along the way as Skylar and I drive across the city. So other things in our game is, so we have a lot of big epic missions in the game, but there's also this layer in our game that we call the occupation, or the ambient occupation. It's things like that searchlight, or there's a radar dish up here, this tank and this tower. And for us, it was about making a collections mechanic in the game, but it not being passive. You're not just walking over and picking up hidden packages. You're killing generals, you're blowing up tanks, you're taking out sniper towers. So it is like a collections mechanic because you get rewarded for it, and it is persistent in the world. So when you take out that tank or that sniper tower, it's gone for good in the game, and it can impact how you play the missions in the game as well. I'll show you actually along the train actually what I'm talking about. So we're reporting back into Wilcox here. Wilcox works for the British SOE along with Skylar. Sean and Wilcox aren't good friends, they don't get along. We have very fleshed out characters, they all have their own motivations in the world. And so Sean and Wilcox have had generally some pretty harsh words for each other. But again, Sean is working with them out of necessity to get to Dierker. So what they broke down to Sean is that he needs to now get on the train that the scientist is on, disable the communications car, go jam the throttle on the train, then get back and pull the scientist off of the train. And for us, it's about having these big kind of set-piece moments inside of a sandbox type gameplay. So in this, we have literally, the train is literally a big giant moving level through our sandbox world. So this is a big train yard here. There's a lot of different ways through here. I can I know a pretty sneaky route that I'll take over here. Let's grab my machine gun. But it's literally about how the player wants to play this. And like I said, our fantasy was really wanting that moment of being on top of the train. So I'll jump up here, sneak up behind this guy, smack him over the head. Now you take his rifle as a tool, and you can see there's a lot of different things in here that we use the color kind of through the environment. So big mission actually waiting ahead of here, and actually what happens to actually pull the scientist off of the